Well, hello, General Hospital Daily Recap fans. Today's daily recap is for Tuesday, October the 7th, 2025. I actually liked today's episode, everybody. I really did. And I'm telling you, I'm starting to like Ronnie. But I'm going to get to all of that, the will and all that at the end. I'm going to get the minor stuff out the way. First and foremost, Emma comes to see her grandmother. And she's talking about Gio, saying how she kissed Gio. She was so happy he found the dog, but she kissed him because she wanted to. She goes, I've been wanting to do that for months. But she thinks she might have ruined things because Gio has been a very good friend to her. And she doesn't want to ruin their friendship. And since he hasn't brought it up, to her, the kiss then, she must have crossed the line and she feels he's avoiding her and blah, blah, blah. So Gio comes into the gym and he is hitting at the little gloves. Sonny's teaching him how to box, right? And Sonny said, your head isn't in this. What is going on? What happened? He told Sonny about how he and Emma kissed. Um, and he feels, it could have been inappropriate. He didn't want anything to get in the way of their friendship. She's been a very good friend to him. It meant something to him. He says, but I think she's been avoiding me. See, they both think they've been avoiding each other, right? And he's like, and I don't want that. I want Emma and I to be friends. And he told Sonny, he says, I have a favor. And Sonny's like, okay, what is it? Can I move in with you? And Sonny says, well, there are some things going on. He goes, what, you think I'm going to be in danger if I move in? He goes, no, no, it's nothing I can't handle. He's like, Donna would love it if you were there. I'm thinking you got Donna there. So he says, no, no, come on. You are welcome to come stay with me if you want. And he says, but don't you think you should talk to Emma first? He says, well, it's time for me to leave. It was never supposed to be permanent. He says, and if she doesn't feel the same as I feel, if she only wants to just be friends, he says, I don't know if I can live in the same house with her just being friends. That would be weird for me, right? So Sonny says, no, absolutely. You can definitely come stay with me. So he says, but I think, like I said, you need to talk to Emma. And Sonny kind of glances over. Emma had just walked into the gym. So he goes over and he goes, oh, you know what? That's 88 Turner. I got to go talk to her. So he goes over there to talk to her. And he says, what brings you here? She says, well, they have a really good, I think she said Pilates class or something. Whatever class she said that was really good at the gym, she never left the room to go to that class. She was busy stretching the entire time, kind of glancing at Sunny, Sunny glancing at her, right? So anyway, I'm gonna come back to her. It was just really cute. So he goes, I just wanted to make myself scarce. Those two have something to work out. So she looks over at Gio and Emma and she says, yeah, they've got that look of young love. It could mean everything right at that age. So anyway, let's go to somebody else. Let's go to, okay, Elizabeth asking Portia, could you be pregnant? Because the dizziness stayed for a minute. And Portia sat down and she goes, no, you know what? I did not have breakfast and I worked all the way through lunch. So Elizabeth says, well, I'm going to go to the cafeteria and get you something to eat. And Portia says, no, it's not your job to take care of me. She said, but a coconut water would be nice. So Elizabeth goes and gets her coconut water, and Portia has this flashback of sleeping with Curtis. Remember that night that they had this big old date? And this is the night that Jordan called saying that Stella was being investigated. The first time those auditors showed up, right? So she recalled her sleeping with Curtis and then her sleeping with Andre Maddox, actually, same night. Because she got all pissed off, bent out of shape, because Curtis was paying attention to Jordan, or Jordan came to the rescue. And let's see, maybe that was a second night they came back to talk to Stella the second time. I think it was the second time. That night, Curtis went in and said, "What was that about, Portia?" And she was saying, "Oh, it's everything is Jordan, Jordan, Jordan." And they argued about it. But then the next day, the guys came back because Jordan's contact bought them a little time. But then Drew pushed for it. So when they came back and took Stella, Jordan was there. No, Jordan, it was all that same night, because Jordan called her contact for a stall. There was a little stall, but then the word came back that no, push forward to take her in for questioning. That's what they were taking her in for. So he's arguing with Portia, and he told her, "I'm sitting here, or I'm standing here arguing with you, while I should be downtown with my aunt." Right? So he walks out. She goes, "Curtis, don't you walk out that door. If you do, our marriage is over." He looked at her and walked out the door. And that's when she took her picture, and she had on her desk, and she threw it, slammed it against the wall, their wedding picture, and it shattered. And Isaiah comes in. Portia. And that's the first time they get it on in her office, right? So it was the same night that she slept with her husband. So look, she could be pregnant with twins. Fraternal twins. One's Curtis's and one's Isaiah's. That would be interesting. I don't think a soap has ever written that. That would be interesting to see. How do you deal with that? So anyway, Elizabeth comes back. Portia feels better. And she tells Elizabeth, "I'm better. You know what? You better get back to work." So Portia takes a pregnancy test. And I have the picture of that. And guess what, everybody? At her age, kids 21 years apart, probably going to be 22 years apart by the time the baby's born, she's pregnant. And that is if they have her, you know how pregnancies don't always go to term in soaps. Her pregnancy might be one of that, because I don't see General Hospital bringing a baby into a story. Sasha's was enough. I just don't see Portia's pregnancy going to term. Something will happen, stress or whatever. But anyway, Curtis shows up, and he asks Elizabeth, "What room is Drew Kane in?" And she says, "He doesn't need any kind of confrontation." And he says, "I'm not here for that. I'm just paying him a visit." So she looks at Curtis and she tells Curtis the room. Curtis is getting ready to go to the room. And Isaiah said, "Excuse me, Curtis, can I have a word with you?" Or he may have called him Mr. Ashford, but I think he called him Curtis. "May I have a word with you?" And Curtis looked at him like, "What?" He goes, "Congressman Kane is in a, I forget the term he used. He didn't say vulnerable, but it was another term that kind of means vulnerable condition right now. And he does not need a fight with you. And Curtis looked and he goes, and that would end up being bad for Portia. Curtis looks at him and said, excuse me, doctor. And he reads his name badge, Gannon? Like, I don't even know you, brother. He says, this is none of your business. And what my wife needs or don't need or doesn't need is none of your business. He goes, but it is my business because this is a hospital. And Congressman Kane is my patient. And he goes, and did Congressman Kane bar me from any visitation list or say he doesn't want visitors? And Isaiah looked at him. He says, no, he hasn't, but it is no secret. The animosity between you two. He says, you and Congressman Kane can go at it all you want. Just don't do it here. He said, because now that puts pressure on Dr. Robinson. And I thought, oh, now you're using the word doctor? Because a minute ago she was Portia, the way you've been treating Portia. And he's like, what do you mean the way I've been treating Portia? That's what they were saying earlier. And he goes, you put her in a very awkward position. And this isn't the first time you've done it. Now Curtis is kind of like, say what? And he's like, the nurses, they know she's your wife. So they're not going to stand up to you or give you too much flack. But I'm here to tell you, not here. And so Britt walks around the corner with two x-ray scans or two scans, printed scans. And she walks up and she's like, okay, break it up, fellas. Stand down. She says, Dr. Gannon, these are the scans you asked for. And she gives Dr. Gannon the scans. And he just looks at Curtis and he takes the scans and he walks away. And Britt says, ooh, okay, you guys were squaring up. And he goes, the nerve of that guy. I don't know who that doctor thinks, who that doctor thinks he is. He goes, I'm here just to visit Drew Kane. And Britt said, now, Congressman Kane, I think she may have said, oh, that's a very volatile. No, she didn't say volatile. She used another word. Forget what word she used. Situation. And you really need to steer clear of that situation. Right? I'm just saying, because Britt will call brass taxes a brass taxes. She's been there all of 5 minutes and she already got the scoop that, because she goes, if anything happens and he gets a setback, Britt says the hospital is liable. Okay? So Curtis doesn't go see Drew. Curtis ends up walking into Portia's office. Now, Portia had went and got a pregnancy test, and the timer had just went off, and she picks it up, she looks at it, and oh, oop-de-doop, don't we just have 2 lines, meaning pregnant? And she's like, oh. Now, there's a knock on her door. She just puts the stick down on her desk, and Curtis walks in. She didn't even try to hide it. And I said, oh, here we go. Portia's getting ready to use this pregnancy information to control Curtis. She's gonna tell him. I believe she's gonna tell him, which will immediately change Curtis's um the attention he gives Portia. Because he's gonna think, oh my God, I got a child on the way. Now Curtis is not gonna go blabbing it to Isaiah, probably, or anybody. But I could tell you this, Portia's not gonna tell Isaiah. She's not gonna tell him. Not right now, she ain't. Isaiah's gonna have to find out. Because she knows once Isaiah hears, Isaiah is going to think that baby's his. And it could be. And it probably will be. Okay. In the end. So we have Carly getting ready to give Britt the what for. And Britt is, remember I said Britt came back with, I think we need to talk because there's a whole lot that you owe me for. And Carly's like, what's that? No, blah, blah. And, getting ready to mouth back at Britt. And Jocelyn says, Mom, okay, that's enough. You're out of line here right now. And Carly looks at her like, out of line, girl. What, huh? Who are you talking to? And she says, I owe Dr. Westbourne my life for saving me, Mom. Okay. So she should get some consideration. Okay. And Britt looks and she goes, yes, I do. Right? So Britt ends up leaving. And Jocelyn sits down and says, Mom, I'm sorry I had to be so harsh, but uh she does. You were really, really hard on her. Why? She goes, well, because Jason left Port Charles to go running after her when he thought she was alive, and he came back different. I know he has not told me. There's something that happened on that trip that Jason is hiding. He's keeping a secret from me, and I don't like it. He drops things. He goes, he will always drop things to go help Britt. She's always needing help. And Jocelyn says, Mom, you sound like you're jealous of her. Are you jealous of Britt Westport? I am not jealous of her. I'm not. Carly's like, Jason and I have a special relationship, a special bond. But for some reason, he will drop things to go help her. But whatever Jason is holding from me, whatever information it is, he's gonna eventually tell me because that's the kind of relationship we have. And Jocelyn is looking like, oh shoot, okay, well, I got to go put out the Brit fire. So anyway, she tells Carly, look, Mom, I have got some more errands I got to run before jet lag kicks in, you know, so I'm going to have to go. And Carly's like, okay. So Jocelyn goes to the hospital and she tells Britt, she says, thank you for not, for keeping my secret. My mother cannot find out I'm WSB. And Britt looks at her. She says, okay, well, you know what? That's going to cost you, though. And Jocelyn looked at her and said, oh, I knew it would. What's it going to cost me? She says, well, for one, I'm tired of living in that room above that diner. I want a suite at the Metro Court. And Jocelyn looks at her. Now, Jocelyn got money. That ain't no, but here's the thing. Carly would hardly understand or could ever know Jocelyn is paying for a suite for Britt. Unless Jocelyn says, you know what? Saving my life, her saving my life means that much to me, Mom. I'm putting her up for a while till she gets on her feet at the Metro Court. I'll pay you. And Carly be like, I ain't taking your money, right? But she could tell her mother, that's how strong of gratitude that I want to pay. And Carly would buy it and Carly would do it. Now, Britt is not going to go to the Metropolitan where Britt is because her and her mother aren't speaking. But in reality, little Miss Lulu is going to say, Carly, you're letting her stay at your hotel? Well, you know what? Summer's over, chick. Rocco's not going to be at that hotel again till next summer. So, yeah, I owe her for saving my daughter's life. And Jocelyn is very insistent that this is how she wants to show her gratitude. So, anyway, Britt is getting ready to move on up. And look, that's where she's always stayed. She's always lived at the Metro Court. So she's going back there. We already know that's going to happen. So now let's get to, Alexis calls Sonny and Carly and meets them at Bobby's and says, look, there's a warrant. When I was there, the police came searching with a search warrant, um, which means their prime suspect is Michael. She said, because I was called for questioning or had an appointment for questioning yesterday and they canceled it. And now they got the search warrant for the house. She says, if there's anything you guys have that can, save your son, then you better produce it now. Any evidence. She said, because I'm telling you this because I know as parents, there's nothing I won't do for my girls. And she looks at Sonny and Sonny looks at her and she goes, and I know you and Carly are the same. There's nothing you won't do for your children. So now's the time to do something. And Carly looks at Sonny, Sonny looks at Carly, right? Now, I'm going to go to, okay, remember I said Justine, 88 Turner, was at the gym and she got a call and they says, oh, okay, all right. So the warrant, you've got the warrant is about ready. She says now, and she looks at Sonny. She goes, okay, make sure you have all of the surrounding structures, because they got the stables, they got the gatehouse, all of the structures on that property. Make sure they are listed on that warrant so that they could be searched. She said, and also make sure, there are no mistakes. And that search and that warrant is for 6500 Parkview Road because we want this to go off without a hitch, right? And she kind of looks at Sonny, but Sonny's kind of looking at her like, what's happening? Right? Because he was with Gio still on the mat. I think he could hear, but I don't know if he could hear. So anyway, now we get Anna knocking on the door with Alexis is still there. Tracy's up in arms saying she's going to contest this will. Apparently, Monica revised her will when she kicked Drew out of the house. She revised it in January. This is after, actually, Drew had already been out the house because this was Jason beat up Drew the evening before Sam's memorial service, which was in November. So Monica did this in January with Edward's old estate attorney, right? And so Tracy says, I'm going to contest this, Alexis. She goes, and I knew you would. You need to get to working on that right away. And I will not your attorney, so I won't be handling that. She says, Monica went to blah, 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 Edward's old estate attorney. Well, then get him on the phone. She goes, oh, like I said, I'm not your attorney. And he's retired anyway. He retired in May, which is why Monica told me she wanted me to take over and handle this will whenever the time came because the other attorney has retired. It's the only reason I'm here. So Tracy's packing up, and then that's when the doorbell rings. Michael goes over to the doorbell because Tracy goes, "This is a forgery." And Jason is actually, everybody's kind of looking like this ain't right. Tracy says, everybody knows that Monica wanted Michael to have this house. Everybody knows that. So for her to now want to give it to this waitress that she hasn't physically seen in decades and only just started communicating with, that would not happen. And when she said this waitress, right? Olivia says, well, personally, I don't know how the word, why the word waitress was thrown in there, you know, and Ned just looked at Olivia. And so she goes, Monica just wouldn't do it. So Olivia says, perhaps Monica felt that Michael has enough money. Ned looked at Olivia. Brio Q snapped her neck and looked at Olivia like, girl, you can never have too much money. Tracy looked at Olivia and Jason kind of glanced at Olivia, right? And Michael said, you know, that could be true because me and my family, we do have more than enough. And Tracy said, nonsense. You could never have more than enough, especially when you are Monica's only grandson. You can never have more than no, not only grandson. She said oldest grandson, because Danny is also another grandson of Monica's, realistically, right? Because she adopted Jason. So she goes, no, we all know how Monica felt. And there's something wrong here, something wrong. And Ronnie says, I brought the proof. This is before Anna gets in here, comes. I brought the letters. Because remember earlier, Tracy says, where's the proof? So she takes out her purse. She goes, I brought the letters that Monica wrote to me. And so she goes, letters can be forged. She says, Monica also told me that she saved every one of the letters I wrote her. So Tracy said, Brooklyn. No, Olivia says, well, maybe she did. We haven't gone through any of Monica's things. So Tracy says, Brooklyn, honey, would you go upstairs and see if you could find these letters that Monica received from her sister? And she goes, sure. Brooklyn comes back down with this huge box of letters. And I thought, well, goodness, is that letters from everybody in Timbuktu that wrote Monica? Because that's a whole lot of corresponding if all of those letters in that box were from her sister. And I'm sorry, everybody. This is 2025. They only connected 2024 and 2025. Snail mail is still snail mail. Before we sit there and I don't know, and I want you in comment corner. Who are you in comment corner? Still write handwritten letters versus sending emails back and forth. Or I'm sorry, doggone it. Yeah, pick up the phone. My health is failing. I can't be writing no letter. You won't be able to read what I wrote. but I could talk to you on my phone. That's what I can't get past. You reconciled so much with your sister, your little sister, that you guys weren't having personal dialogue. You guys weren't hearing each other's voices. Something's not right with that picture. Okay. Now I got a little video clip I'm getting ready to play, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to talk just a little bit more about the whole Ronnie situation. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share the content, share sound from my computer, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Nope, that's the wrong screen. See, that's why I stop sharing. I do a little test, share screen, content, and it is right here. There we go. All right, there, that's it. Now, let's go ahead and play this video clip.
Who are you? My name is Veronica Bard. I'm Monica's sister. Since when? Yeah, well, I've been getting that question a lot since I got here, but as you will see, I seem to have just inherited this whole property, so I think the warrant should be served to me. Somebody's been watching Law and Order. Welcome to Port Charles, Miss Bard. Thank you. Yeah. We should start the study. Yeah. Sorry, this is obviously all very new to me, but I think I better read the warrant before you begin. Sure. Look, if we can't stop Anna, there's no way she can.
Ronnie's doing more than we are. She's buying us time.
She's a slow reader. Go find out what's taking that lawyer so long. Okay, Ms. Bard, as you can see, everything is in order, yes? So we're going to start the search? Oh no, wait a minute. This is wrong. Excuse me, what? Well, I've used my GPS to get here twice in the last 2 days, and if I remember correctly, the address is 66 Harborview Drive. Yes, that's correct, yes. Right, well, this warrant is for 65 Harborview Drive. So, I guess you won't be searching here today. You want the house across the street.
All right. Ronnie! Now, remember what I said earlier when ADA Turner was in the gym? She was the one that said 6500 Harborview Drive. She intentionally had to put the wrong address on the warrant. But see, they give ADA Turner way too much, what do you want to say? Way too much control over police business. Since when does a warrant have to go through the district attorney's office? The police department, aren't they the ones that issue the warrants? Request them? Does it then have to go through the district attorney? I don't know. Look, I haven't been in trouble. Don't plan on it. But when Ronnie said, wait, I would like to read this warrant, I thought, can you do that? Because see, I've never been served a warrant and don't plan on it. But it's good to know your rights, right? So I looked it up and asked Gemini. And it says, absolutely. I said, do you have the right to read the warrant before the search starts? Yes, you absolutely have the right to read the warrant before law enforcement begins to search your property. This is a crucial step in protecting your constitutional rights. See, Ronnie is not as, I don't understand these things. I was just a waitress. at all, everybody, because she sure knew that. But under the guise of, I'm new to this, but I think I should read this, right? Oh, she knew more than I knew. And they said, here are some of the things. He says, when law enforcement, or Google the search, when law enforcement officers arrive with a search warrant, they are required in most cases to show the occupant of the premises, really supposed to be in all cases. This allows, well, unless you're not home, this allows them to, you to understand the scope and the limits of their authority. Key things to look for. Make sure there's a judge's signature on that warrant. Really? And they said a valid search warrant must be signed by a judicial officer. Wow. No judge's signature, no warrant, right? And then it says the location to be searched. The warrant must specifically describe the address and the areas at that are authorized to be searched. Officers are generally not permitted to search areas beyond what is specified. So look, everybody, just for your own, legalese, kind of look that up and get some information out there, because I certainly didn't know that that was the real deal. So Ronnie was right. Guess what you saw what she found? Oops, this has the wrong address on it. And Anna was like, no, look, let's go start searching, blah, blah, blah. She's like, no, this is the wrong address. But Anna had already divulged what they're looking for. That was Edward's gun collection. So now they got time to go get that gun. But I can tell you right now, the gun's probably not even there. When was the last time anybody's been in Edward's study? Tracy kind of made it a case, and it's like they said, a shrine to Edward in his old study. Right? So they probably don't even know that gun is missing. So we know when they come back with the proper warrant, that gun is not going to be there. But we got Chase and Dante living up in that house. They probably can't even tell you the last time they've been in Edward's study. But anyway, that was actually kind of cool to me. I said, hey, I kind of like this Ronnie chick. And she's going to actually like the fact the way Michael is treating her. Michael has always treated people very justly. He really has. Only Drew, who slept with his wife and tore apart his family. And Nell, who tried to kill him, tear apart his family, and tried to pretty much frame his mother. Right? Okay. And then Sonny, when he was pissed off at him, and he took Sonny's, little Avery from him. I mean, Michael could get a little vicious, but Michael is still just overall, pretty much, for the most part. Okay. So I liked it. And I'm anxious to hear from you in comment corner, what you thought of today's episode, because it was a good one. All right, everybody, if you like, please, I'd love to hear your voice comment on the comment corner voice line, 424-282-9796. Go ahead and leave your voice comment. Let's do a bit of comment corner. Do a little comment corner here today. 5 minutes of it. Let me scroll up and get my trusty dusty stopwatch going. And we're going to go from the bottom up today. From the bottom up, because yesterday I went from the top down. So this time we shall go from the bottom up. And here we go. Oki says, Jason was studying to be a doctor. After all, yes, he was. And Sylvania says, did anyone else notice the look on Ronnie's face or whether or not she called, whatever she's calling herself these days, when Alexis gave her the locket, she had a disappointed look of, are you kidding? She already knew what was coming to her. I think the will is fake. Well, I think the will is fake too. Pretty much I know it because they're not giving that house away. But no, I saw the look of, she was wondering what is the locket, and when she opened it up and saw that picture, I saw the look of, oh, a touching look of, I, like she said, I can't believe Monica kept this all these years, right? So I kind of think it was a look of gratitude, me myself. Hector said, Hector, we didn't understand what you meant by Jason and Lulu. I didn't get that. Even Oki says, to do what? I mean, like Jason and Lulu for what? No, they should never be a couple. But if that's what you meant, Bonnie says, I, for one, did not enjoy the soap today. It just annoyed me. If the Ronnie character is only going to be there for a few weeks, I guess that she won't own the Quartermain home for long. No, she's not. I could tell. She's not doing. But we may have to deal with Drew, but I don't think for one, she's not in league with Drew. Drew is gonna Martin maybe, and Martin secretly can't stand Drew, but she's not going to, I don't think, give Drew the property or nothing, because I think she's going to gravitate for what's right, and Michael is treating her right, and actually the whole rest of the family is too. And I kind of think, because the way Tracy, the look on her face after Ronnie caught the mistake, Tracy might end up softening up to her in the end. Who knows? We'll see. Avery says, I think the will is fake. I really think Monica left the house to the entire family with Tracy or Michael acting as the executor. I would have thrown the watch, that watch, and pickle jar. You know what's so interesting? She may have given that pickle jar as a joke, or Martin had that pickle jar written in because somehow he heard about the history of the pickle company. But the thing is, Tracy never ever looked into that company, because that was a whole company. Lila's Pickled Relish or something. And that company made quite a bit of money. Tracy never did anything with it, or because she was just so hurt that that's all Edward would give her versus ELQ, right? Wouldn't it be something if that company now is worth billions? Although you'd read about it and hear about it in the news. But anyway, no, I think that could have been a joke. But Monica only meant Ronnie to have that locket, which is why she addressed it early on and she was done with Ronnie, right? That whole thing, I wouldn't be surprised had she wrote to my sister, what did she say? To my cherished sister of my heart. If I had to pick Ronnie or I had to pick Tracy, Tracy ended up, because this was revised in January. Tracy ended up being that cherished sister of Monica's heart for the last few years. So we shall see how that is going to happen. And then Blake says, I hope that happens in the long run. And Blake says to DB, haha, the pickled would have to be, I mean, would have to be a cruel joke. Yeah, the pickles, I know. The watch was a nice sentiment, but it seems like Jason should have gotten more than that. I could see where you would think that possibly, but Monica knows Jason. She knows the house would mean nothing to him. He didn't even want to live there. He lived there for Danny, right? She also knows, you think Michael has money. Jason has more money than Michael. Okay? So Jason would not need anything else for himself. But for her setting up a trust fund for Danny and Jake, as well as the trust funds that I know Jason has for his children, that's what Jason would appreciate. That now they're getting an extra inheritance from their grandmother, right? Deborah says, I think Martin did something with that will, the way Martin talked to Drew. I think so too. I really, really do. P. Merle says, where is Diane? There is no way Diane would have allowed Martin to access to Monica's will. That is nuts. Blake says to P. Merle, um, that's what I'm wondering. How would he get access to the real will? I don't know, perhaps in transit, perhaps knowing that the second, the addendum wasn't drawn up in Diane's office. It was only drawn up in the other attorney's office. And if he retired in September, June, July, August, 5 months ago, maybe 6 months now, they don't know what her wishes were to him or what she said her wishes were, right? They're just getting this sealed envelope secondhand. And then Blake says, definitely. Karen says, I knew he did something from when he spoke to Tracy and said she would soon learn she doesn't have all she thinks. Yeah, Martin all but gave it away. He has his dirty little hands in that. Marva says, do you remember when Martin found the letter at Drew's that fell under the couch? I wonder what that was. I didn't remember them even saying anything about it. And I think it was something from Monica. No, they did. Martin said Monica has a sister. Martin read it and was like, oh, which was interesting. It'd be interesting if in that letter Monica says, I'm leaving, everything to you. No, that's not true. Because this letter wasn't from Monica to Ronnie, it was from Ronnie to Monica. So Martin was just finding out that Monica had a sister. That's what he was finding out. And he pretty much knew nobody knew about that. But yeah, that was a letter Ronnie wrote to Monica. All right, everybody, look, I'm 8 minutes into Comic Corner. It was getting so good. I will be back tomorrow with another daily recap of General Hospital.